All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts playing probably the worst game of his career, and yet Brian Johnson somehow being blamed. Nick Sirianni, he didn't even talk to the team following the big loss to the Jets, and the injuries are mounting. We have an update on Lane Johnson, though, and it looks pretty good. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. All right, I'll be honest, it's tough to swallow here on a Monday. Just finished watching the film. It's not good. What's even worse, though, is the fact that just minutes before the Eagles kicked off, the San Francisco 49ers, playing a really banged-up Browns team, they lost. They missed this field goal as time went out, and they went to 5-1, basically gifting Philadelphia a chance to not only go 6-0, become the top team in the NFC, and be ahead in the loss column against the vaunted 49ers. Oh, and Brock Purdy looked very pedestrian, meaning the national media is finally going to stop talking about him being an MVP candidate. Getting ready for Eagles pregame, it was essentially a battle of the Eagles, who were a better overall team, but really, really banged up, versus the Jets, who were not as good of a team, but also really, really banged up. And while Aaron Rodgers somehow throwing in pregame just weeks after Achilles surgery might have felt kind of like a bad omen, I was still very confident that the Eagles were about to win. Things got off to a great start. The Eagles forced a punt, and then Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown immediately started connecting on their first drive. Hurts also somehow avoided a sack here, had a guy draped all over his back, and hit Hurts to convert a big third down. Brian Johnson was even getting into his playbook, showing some razzle-dazzle here. Look at this third down conversion with Swift and Scott in the backfield, beautifully designed to complete a third down and 2. The red zone offense reverted back to the typical quarterback draw playbook, which normally doesn't work, but back-to-back ones paid off as Jalen Hurts, he couldn't be denied. He barely got the ball across the end zone, capped off a 19-play, 91-yard scoring drive to open the Eagles game. Took 10 minutes off the clock. We're all feeling great. The issues did start very quickly. On that opening drive, Lane Johnson's ankle was rolled up on, and he limped to the locker room, basically never to be seen again. Jeff McClain tweeted afterwards that his x-rays were negative, thumbs up for that, but it's a potential high ankle sprain, thankfully not on his already bad right ankle. This is on his left ankle, and a typical recovery is 3 to 4 weeks, although offensive linemen normally come back a little bit sooner. Now, we're probably going to get an update on the ankle situation for Lane Johnson later on this afternoon, so be sure to subscribe because we'll have the latest updates on tomorrow's show, but it does seem like he avoided a major injury here. The question is, how long can he deal with pain? How quickly can he come back? And let's hope it's sooner rather than later. Also, you can't really blame the turf for this injury. I know that the turf had issues with other Eagle players we'll talk about later on in the show, but this was simply wrong place, wrong time, and offensive linemen have this all the time when opposing players roll over their ankles and basically cause major injuries. Thankfully, again, this one seems to be minor. Now, Jack Driscoll would replace him, and normally I'd feel pretty good about Jack Driscoll replacing him. But after this game, I've seen enough of Jack Driscoll to last me the rest of my entire life. He was absolutely horrible. Now, Zach Wilson's second drive was pretty good. He immediately started showing some of that poise he started to develop over the past couple of weeks. But after the Eagles defense swapped Josh Jobe for Eli Ricks on the outside, they stiffened in the red zone, forced a field goal. Side note, Nakobe Dean played most of the Eagles' first couple of defensive snaps at linebacker alongside Nicholas Morrow. They did mix in Zach Cunningham a couple of times, but it's very clear for those wondering, Dean is back, he's going to be a starter, and Morrow's going to be alongside him. Hurts came back out and connected with Brown to start the drive, but then the first big mistake happened as Dallas Goedert basically just lost the ball and it fell perfectly into the waiting arms of Quinnen Williams. This is technically ruled a pick, but this is not on Jalen Hurts at all. What's funny though is people tend to forget on Twitter is right after this interception by Jalen Hurts, the Eagles immediately stiffened on defense as Reddick got another sack. The Jets would then go for on 4th and 5 from midfield and wouldn't get it. So essentially, Jalen Hurts' interception didn't really result in any positive plays for the Jets on offense. And again, for all the hate that Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts get after this game, and a lot of it rightfully so, they immediately marched on the field yet again. Hurts hit Swift on a Texas route, and the Philadelphia Eagles were up 14-3, and again, we were all feeling pretty great. 2 red zone trips, 2 touchdowns, the Eagles defense was holding. What more could you have asked for? Now, the following Jets drive, the Eagles defense again bent but didn't break. You kind of expected this with the secondary being so banged up as it was. The Jets got into the red zone and they forced another field goal. Side note, the turf probably got their first real Eagle player on this drive as Eli Ricks went down with a knee injury. Didn't seem to be super serious. He did walk off under his own power. We've gotten no update though on Eli Ricks so far this morning. Again, I expect that to be later on today. Now, with 2:30 left in the first half, the Eagles again moving the football until DeAndre Swift took a right hook from C.J. Mosley, coughed at the ball again, creating the Eagles' second big mistake. Desai then continued his coaching performance of the day and stiffened yet again, forcing another Jets field goal as the half expired to give the Philadelphia a 14-9 lead. Brian Johnson then clearly saw he was not running the football enough in that first half, opened the second half with a big DeAndre Swift run, but a major knock on the play calling after the game was over is that Swift finished with just 10 carries for 18 yards against the 27th ranked rush defense. We could rip Brian Johnson for a lot of stuff, and maybe some of it's warranted, some of it is not. but DeAndre Swift should always have more than 15 carries a game, no matter who the defense is, because the offensive line is good enough in run blocking, and he's fantastic rushing the football. What was also not good is on that same drive, the Eagles moving into the Jets territory, Devontae Smith is open by a mile and drops this. He has inexplicably been really bad the past couple of weeks. Now, I love Smitty, but he's been off, and I know that a couple of weeks ago, he seemed to be a little bit upset on the sideline with the lack of targets, because there are plays that he just can't miss. That at least gets you into field goal range. He's probably still running if he makes that catch. I love Smitty. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to learn from this, but he has got to be better. You can't be calling for the football and then not converting when it's given to you. He did take responsibility post-game, saying, I just dropped the damn ball. I've got to execute better, which you love to see. He's a grown-up. He's an adult. He's just a champion. He's going to be just fine. But they need to get more from Smitty, especially with A.J. Brown balling on the other side. Driscoll then got Jalen Hurts obliterated, and the Eagles would end up punting, again, killing a very, very good, promising drive. Side note, Driscoll was horrific at right tackle all game long. With Sua Opeta already filling in at right guard, the Eagles really don't have an option to replace Driscoll with. Unless you want to go out and sign somebody and bring in a fresh, off-the-street right tackle, it's going to be Driscoll for the time being until Lane Johnson comes back. On the ensuing Jets drive, the Eagles defense would stiffen yet again and force another punt. Stop me if you heard this before, but the Eagles defense was really, really good yesterday. Gainwell then dropped a pretty easy pass on 3rd down and 6 from Jalen Hurts, and at this point in the third quarter, it was clear that the offense was starting to kind of slow down, and all those drives that you saw earlier on in the first half, they weren't existing. What's crazy is that yet again, the Jets moved the football into Eagles territory. Haason Reddick then has an amazing sack inside the red zone and forced the Jets to kick another field goal. By the way, Haason Reddick, he's all the way back, and I take back everything I said about him the first couple weeks of the season. He now leads the team in sacks. He's had multiple sacks each of the past couple of weeks, and it's very clear that it was just a couple of games to get him warmed up, get the thumb all figured out. He's been absolutely fantastic. Thumbs up for Haason Reddick, at least becoming the old Haason Reddick, because when Jalen Carter comes back, this Eagle defensive front will continue to eat as they did 5+ times yesterday against Zach Wilson. Also, Blakenship took this nasty blindside block. He got knocked out with a rib injury, and Bradley Roby had a shoulder issue, meaning that the Eagles secondary later on in this game basically didn't exist. They had nobody back there who was an original starter, and that was a big, big blow for Philadelphia. Now, we don't know the extent of the Blakenship rib injury or the shoulder injury from Bradley Roby, but on a week where you're facing Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins, we have to hope and pray they are minor, and hope and pray that this secondary starts looking a lot more like it was week 1 than it does week 6, because it's been a big, big problem. Now, back to the game. Hurts then made a beautiful throw and then a first down run, but he held on the ball for way too long on this play, which it's kind of Driscoll's fault that he got hit, forcing this interception. But at the same time, at this point in the game, Jalen Hurts should understand he can't hold the ball for this long when the right tackle is Jack Driscoll. This was the third big mistake, forcing another turnover. Good news is, Eagle defense held again. They forced another punt, and back up would come Jalen Hurts with 11 minutes left in the fourth with a lead. Like, any sort of points in this situation, and Philadelphia's chances of winning skyrocket astronomically. And Hurts immediately delivered. When in doubt, 3rd down and 6, how about this deep ball perfectly placed into the arms of A.J. Brown to get the drive going. I find it so fascinating watching this game again this morning that all the people on Twitter are ripping Jalen Hurts, acting like he's completely washed. Yes, the interceptions, really bad. You cannot continue to do that. He's thrown more interceptions through 6 weeks this year than he had all last season, but you can't sit back and say that the Eagle offense was terrible yesterday, or they couldn't move the football, or they were anemic. They moved the football almost every single drive, and Jalen Hurts made some incredible 2022 Jalen Hurts throws. The issues came when they got into Jets territory and turnovers resulted. The fourth big mistake of the night came when Jake Elliott somehow missed this 37-yarder, which immediately sent me into a panic, thinking that this is a bad omen and this is a game we're going to lose. Which also could be flipped. You're a glass half full kind of guy and say, well, Jalen Hurts is not going to miss 37-yarders like each and every week. You hit this field goal, you probably waltz out of here with a win, and we're a lot happier 6-0 today. What's crazy, though, is that the Eagle defense again stiffened. Haason Reddick again got to Zach Wilson, and the Eagle offense was going to have the football with about 4.5, 5 minutes left with a lead. All you gotta do is ice the game away, score here, and you're gonna win. But on 3rd down and 9 with $1:56 to go, Jalen Hurts makes probably the worst throw of his career, at least the worst throw of his Philadelphia Eagle career, and it's a really, really, really bad interception. I have no idea what he's looking at here, and Hurts said post-game he just made a bad read.
Yeah, I think, I had an opportunity, and I didn't do my job on the play. I don't think I made the correct read on it, but it happens. It's this opportunity for us to learn from it and grow.
It's a throw off his back foot. It's into double coverage. It just wasn't the Jalen Hurts we came to know and love. And I think it's partially due to the fact that he had created a lot of turnovers early on in the game. His confidence had kind of waned a little bit. He was pressing, trying to force a field goal. That way they could win this game and seal it. But also the worry of Jack Driscoll and giving up another sack. I mean, Driscoll had been getting beat all day long on the right side. Not an excuse for Jalen Hurts. He will come back better than this. But this was an absolute backbreaker that I just am still stunned he threw this football. The Jets would make kind of a boneheaded play with Breece Hall scoring a touchdown with 1:47 left, but the Eagle offense on the ensuing drive, they weren't able to move the ball. And I really don't understand a 4th down and 8 Hail Mary, essentially, when you just need 8 yards to double cover Devontae Smith, who's been bad all game. Either way, Philadelphia fell, they lost, and boy, it was a rough evening. After the game, Nick Sirianni, he didn't say a word to his team in the locker room. Instead, the Eagles, the captains of Hurts and Brown, Smitty, Reddick, and Fletcher Cox all took over. They spoke to the team. They talked about accountability, about lessons learned, and how they can grow from this loss. A.J. Brown actually echoed basically what he told the team to the media in his first postgame soundbite.
Compared to that, life is harder than that, I'm not even like upset at the loss, I'm upset at just us just not putting up to that standard like how we talk about it, you know what I'm saying? And it's okay, to have a little frustration because sometimes you need that, man, you know what I'm saying? To light a fire on everybody's ass. So, but like I said, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna grow from it, we're gonna learn from it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even upset at that loss. Stuff like that happen, that's life.
Hurts also took a ton of responsibility, as he should. He was going to. With all the turnovers and all the issues that the offense have had, at least with him throwing the football, he took accountability and tries to bury this game and move on to the next one.
I've been here before. It's all about how you respond to it. And, I got a feeling how we'll come in and come in with some great intensity. And, some of these things, they build character. I say that all the time. It truly builds character. And so this team just has to respond the right way.
Now listen, I'm as frustrated as you are. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to try to sit here on a Monday and pretend like it's all going to be just fine. But at the same time, the panic I saw on Twitter on Sunday night and even into Monday morning is embarrassing. I mean, the amount of Eagle fans who think that the season is officially over just because they had a bunch of turnovers and lost to the very good Jets defense and are now 5-1 still is laughable. Do you really think the Eagles are going to have 4+ turnovers and Jake Elliott will miss a 37-yard field goal each and every week going forward? I know the schedule is tough. I know you have Miami on a Sunday Night Football, a game I'm going to be at. But all you got to do is rattle off a couple of wins. Miami, Washington, Dallas, get to the bye week, get healthy, and then prepare for the really tough stretch we all are worried about. Personally, I side with Sam Stafford on Twitter, who said the Eagles needed to lose, clearly. Had the benefit of saying we aren't playing well, but a win is a win. Now they're forced to face the fact that they need to get it together and don't have an ease of schedule just to take their time anymore. They're right, this better light a fighter under the Philadelphia Eagles. Imagine if they would have won. Would they have taken the same care going into practice on Monday or film work on Tuesday, getting ready for the Miami game? You would hope so, but maybe this actually gets them going in a way that we would not have expected. As for the people crying on Twitter about the Eagles' first round bye being gone and how the team is absolutely garbage, they're still 5-1. Do you remember the San Francisco 49ers? They also looked garbage against P.J. Walker and the Browns, and lost basically the same type of game Philadelphia did. Now we're both 5-1. We play each other week 13, and the Eagles still have everything in front of them. I know the schedule is hard. Trust me, it's very, very difficult. But you got to understand, if you somehow beat Miami on Sunday, which is possible, Miami looked terrible against the Bills a couple weeks ago. You play the Commanders 2 weeks later, then Dallas, both of which are reeling, then a bye. You could theoretically lose one of those 3 games, be still sitting with only 2 losses heading into a bye week to get healthy, and then the gauntlet of 5 straight games where, you go 500 and you're still have a real good chance of winning the East and hosting a home playoff game. We can be upset, and I'm going to read all the comments and, be with you guys in all of this because we're all upset about the fact the Eagles look terrible. But let's not throw in this idea that Jalen Hurts is washed or the Eagles are terrible or they're not going to make the playoffs like I saw a lot of you guys write on Twitter. What do you guys think? Let me know who you would blame down below in the comment section. I think it was mainly Jalen Hurts or mainly turnovers, however you want to go ahead and categorize it, because Hurts was really good minus those turnovers. We would have called this an incredible Jalen Hurts game had he not turned the football over. The defense looks fantastic. I think injuries are the biggest concern, though. If Lane Johnson is out an extended period of time, Jack Driscoll either better step it up or they need to figure out a way to protect him on the right side, or else Jalen Hurts is going to be hit all day long. Now, we have plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks here on the channel. Be sure to subscribe. Get your head up. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. We'll have plenty of injury updates tomorrow. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.